What's up, guys? It's Ryan from Seek Outside. We are up here in the mountains of Colorado doing some ice fishing. We got our 8-man teepee set up, and we also brought a Big Mama stove. So today I'm going to show you how to set this bad boy up to get some heat for any situation that you may be in. One of the key points that you need to address when you are going to be setting up a stove on the ice is obviously the legs. Now most of the heat's going to rise up, but there still will be a little bit of heat on those screw legs. So basically what we've done is I just took a couple cans out of the recycling at my house, and I'm going to put these underneath the legs to kind of dissipate some of that heat, and that should be good. So got my Big Mama here. Just going to take her apart. In your bag, what you should have, it's going to be the top. You should have two sides, front and a back, and then the bottom, as well as all your legs. We got stovepipe, the most important part, the damper here. So let's get to it. This is a standard stove as opposed to our U-turns. If you want to know the differences, we do have other videos on our YouTube page. You can check them out up here. But the standard stoves are very easy to set up. They all kind of fit together like a perfect puzzle piece. So what I typically do is I will take my bottom and I will get my, gonna get my front here. I'm going to put one side and stick it in. So basically you can see these sides have this little zigzag here, and then you can see your front and your back are both going to have this ridge right here, and basically that little crease in the titanium is going to fit in just perfectly. It makes it super easy, and this is also easier after you burn your stove in. So if you set your stove up the first time, it might be a little bit more difficult, but once you burn it in, some of these titanium pieces get a memory. It should be a lot easier. So just gonna take my other side here and fit it in. And then with this back piece, what I like to do is you can kind of slide it in from the top. Slide it down, and you got your base, and then I'm going to put the top on. Make sure that the chimney hole is at the back here, and there is the cornerstone for setting up your stove. Next thing I'm going to do is I got my legs here, and hot tip, if you want to make this setup a lot quicker, anytime you set up and take down your stove, just make sure that the top washers, you just barely screw them on, as opposed to taking all the hardware off of these legs and putting them back in the bag. It's gonna make your setup a lot quicker. So just gonna go ahead, unscrew all these washers up top here and put them in a spot that you remember. That's the most key part. Make sure that you can put them on the stove bag or somewhere like that, but don't lose those things. They're important. Cool. Now I'm going to carefully flip the stove on the side. It might kind of fall off a little bit there, but all you got to do is hold it. Just gonna insert leg in there, and it can be kind of tricky to find this hole up top here. So kind of what I like to do sometimes is just take the top off a little bit and then screw the washer on top. And when you're first burning in your stove, you want this connection to be a little bit looser, because the heat is going to expand that first time. But once you've burnt your stove in, you can just screw these things in pretty tight and you should be good to go. then what I'm gonna do now, flip it up like this, and I'm gonna go kitty corner. So I want the opposite sides here. Just gonna make it a little bit easier. Pop this top off, guide it through the hole. Screw it in. And as you can see, we got a little bit more of the screw sticking out on this side than on this side, but we're just going to go ahead and after we get all these screwed in, that's when we're going to adjust all that and make sure that the stove is sitting level. Got the whole stove set up here. As you can see, it's relatively level. That's probably the hardest part. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to step outside of the tent here and get my stovepipe set up. And if you notice, your stovepipe, for example, this is going to be 9 feet of stovepipe, which is going to be about standard for an 8-man teepee. It's going to have 9 stovepipe rings. That's what you should have. If you have like 7.5 feet of stovepipe, then you should have 8 rings. You're basically going to be putting one of these every foot here. So step outside and put this thing together. The wind literally picked up as soon as we were about to go outside, so we're going to put this together in here. Shouldn't be a huge issue. We got 16 feet in diameter here. This stovepipe is burnt in. Definitely suggest burning your stovepipe in before you take it out in the woods. It's going to be a lot easier to set up. So basically, once you have a burnt in stovepipe, all you really need to do, take it out like that. And as you can see, it's already got that memory so that it wants to close together. Just going to make your life a lot easier. Got our stovepipe rings. Just gonna put this, basically with the stovepipe, what you kind of want to do is you want to get it super small just to get these on. Like I got a very thin diameter. And I'm just gonna slide it up. About to the halfway point. And then I'm gonna put like 3 more on. Do it at the same time so that it's easier to just leave one behind. Like I said, you want about a foot in between each one. As you guys can see, we got this titanium edge sticking out here. It's generally a good idea to wear gloves when you're putting this thing together. You definitely want to be very careful because especially like in a situation like right now when it's icy and wet, your hand can slip. It's pretty easy to cut your hand on this side here, so I would definitely recommend wearing some gloves. But we got all of our stovepipe rings on. This is the final one, and as you can see, we got our full chimney here. Another key thing when you're planning on using a stove is we have this stove jack up here right to the side of the center pole. That's where this chimney is going to pop out of. Now on smaller teepees, this is not as big of an issue, but on bigger teepees like the 8-person and above, it's pretty high up, it's pretty tall. So you want to make sure there's like a flap on the outside of that. You want to make sure that that is open before you put your center pole in. It's just going to make this whole process a lot easier. So we have that thing open up right now, so I'm easily able to just take the stovepipe, pop it through the hole there, and we got that good to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my damper. And what I want to do, there's 2 ways to go about it. You can either put the damper in there first. I've found that that's a little bit more difficult. What I like to do is I like to put the damper on the chimney before you put it into the stove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bottom stovepipe ring, just slide it up about a foot or so, and you should be able to easily fit this stovepipe around the damper there. And then just going to slide the stovepipe ring down about as far as it can go. Maybe make some adjustments up here so that you don't have any gaping holes for smoke to get out of that chimney. And then it's as simple as just sliding the damper into your stove. I always try to center it underneath the stove jack there just so that it's perfectly flat. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, because of the heat, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these cans underneath stovepipe legs. And you are good to go. That is how you set up a Big Mama stove in any tent. This is our biggest stove. It's going to be awesome for basically any circumstance that you're using, you know, an 8-person teepee and above. You can fit like full-sized, like I call them gas station logs, but any cord wood that you might buy from the store, you can fit them in there. It's going to have the longest burn time. So overall, great stove, especially when you don't have to pack it in on your back. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel for more instructional videos, and make sure you subscribe to our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and listen to our podcast. Thanks, guys.